And now a rebuttal to last week's rebuttal from Jay's previous public service announcement.
Good morning, students. Once again, I'm a little dismayed that I'm having to come to you in this manner in order that I might defend the first comments I made and then make a rebuttal to the comments that were made last week about that initial public service announcement I made. Many of you have flooded calls and emails to our office this week saying that my comments about soccer and particularly one of our students, Beth, were inappropriate, uncalled for, and several of you have called for the need to me to make the biggest apology that I could possibly make. Well, if that's what you're here today to hear, then let me first say I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're all a bunch of morons. You see, the thing is, if you're looking for an apology from me about the comments I made about soccer and about Beth Leeper, you've come to the wrong place. Because you see, I am just as vigilant in my efforts to attack soccer as I have ever been. Our country, as I stated a couple of weeks earlier, has been asleep at the wheel. There's been no one overseeing what has been happening with the resurgence of soccer in our country, and I'm here to be that voice of sanity that is saying, get soccer out now. Beth last week chose to respond in a way that I deemed inappropriate. She not only felt the need to defend herself, but also to defend the sport of soccer, and we're just not going to take that. In fact, this week, which I'll get to in a minute, she fired the first shot in this battle that we're just going to have to deal with. But before I get into Beth particularly, I want to show you a couple things that I've discovered in my research about the game of soccer this week. First of all, I came across this little piece of information. It appears that there is an accused terrorist who has already admitted to being sent into Belgium to drive a bomb into a U.S. Air Force base. And he has, quote, committed himself to becoming a martyr for Osama bin Laden. His name is Nazar Trabelsi. Many of you soccer heads may remember him because he is a former European pro soccer player. You don't see any NFL players or Major League Baseball players joining Al-Qaeda, but who is? That's right, soccer players, committing himself to becoming a martyr for Osama bin Laden. You know, recently the World Cup has wrapped up here in Germany, and recently the United States finished a game in a 1-1 tie with Italy. It was much acclaimed as the greatest American soccer game ever played. Our team tied the Italians in a 1-1 tie, and it was called the greatest American soccer game ever. Well, in case you didn't see that game, the reason it ended in a 1-1 tie was not because America scored one goal. It's because one of the Italians kicked the ball into his own goal. That's right, friends. America did not score at all. Instead, they scored for us, and that's considered one of the greatest games in the history of United States soccer. Think about it, guys. It just about sums up everything that we know about soccer. It's absolutely asinine. It's a game about nothing. In truth, soccer could be played without a ball at all, and I don't think anybody would notice. The game consists of 22 men or women running up and down a grassy field for 90 minutes with very little happening while fans scream wildly. And when the ball actually approaches one of the goals, the fans reach a fever pitch and the cheering becomes absolutely insane. You know, our friend Beth Leeper, she's a goalie, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago. And if you ever watch soccer, do you realize that the goalies spend the vast majority of the game doing absolutely nothing? There have been news articles and clippings and people really crediting Beth for how good of a soccer player she is, when mostly she just stands around. She could take a magazine out there and randomly throw her arms or legs around, possibly block a shot here and there, and still be considered a great goalie. And it's great how they run down the field and they'll kick the ball at the goal, miss it by 30 feet, and the announcer will say, "Ooh, that was a near miss." And so after several of these near misses, most games end in 0-0 ties. It's a little wonder, with nothing happening, why many soccer fans begin these soccer riots that have become so common. It's because there's nothing else to do except fight your neighbor. I'll close my dissertation on soccer by saying this. What is it about human beings that has set us apart from the animal world? Well, in case you're wondering, it's two things. We have a large brain, and we have opposable thumbs. Soccer goes against the very nature of us being human beings. First of all, in every other sport, the head is protected. You wear helmets in football, batting helmets in baseball. We try to protect our head, but in soccer, we freely use our heads. Secondly, every other game requires the use of hands because, unlike the rest of nature, we have opposable thumbs. But in soccer, using your hands is off limit, and therefore it is contrary to human nature. I guess that means that a donkey who has 4 legs would be a much better soccer player than your average human being. Therefore, soccer would be a game better suited to dim-witted quadrupeds than it would to our humans. Now that brings me to our friend Beth Leeper. Again, I say she fired the first shot this week by infiltrating our mega sports camp. We have here some video footage of Beth kicking the soccer ball around, playing with some kids. It looks all innocent, but that, my friends, is our beloved field here at our Wolf Street location. Many of your grandparents sacrificed and scrimped and tithed and gave as unto the Lord so that we might purchase that field. And here we have our friend Beth Leeper desecrating it with the game of soccer. Not only that, but bringing in some of the neighborhood kids in order to further corrupt them. This is the move of a desperate person. Beth Leeper is afraid. She fears the movement that is taking a resurgence here in our community against the game that she loves so much. So Beth, I will again call on you to cease and desist your actions in your further attempts to bring soccer to this community. I think you hear me knocking. I think I'm coming in, and I'm bringing with me an army of supporters who will watch you go down. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our student ministry.